Let's begin our journey now by looking at the Azure account hierarchy. And if you're in an enterprise, you will have something that is unique, which is an Azure Enterprise, agreement. And so you actually have an additional portal that people just maybe swipe in their credit card won't actually have. And that's the Azure Enterprise portal. And that's available at ea.azure.com. And in that portal, you can actually go in and create various departments and then go ahead and create sub-accounts inside of your enterprise. But for a lot of people, you actually start with just the account section. If you're sort of just trying out this course to learn Azure, you've probably used a free trial or you've swiped your credit card, you will be at the account portal, which is at accounts.azure.com. And there's a billings and usage link on there, which takes you to the place where you set up your account in itself. And so you will go there to manage your account and your subscriptions underneath. Speaking of subscriptions, once you've created your subscription, you will then want to access the Azure portal to actually put resources inside of it. And you do that at portal.azure.com. So this might get a little bit confusing at first, but just remember, enterprise, we start at ea.azure.com. For my actual Azure account, where I'm going to put things in, I go to account.azure.com. And then for my actual subscriptions, once I've created my subscription in that account at account.azure.com, I go to portal.azure.com, which you'll see throughout all the demos is where we are when we're deploying resources. Following that, inside of subscriptions, I can deploy resource groups, which are essentially containers that I can put my resources in, and I can assign RBAC permissions to them, which you'll learn more about throughout the course. That's how we assign access. And finally, as I mentioned, in the resource group, we have our resources. So multiple layers there. They've also introduced the concept of management groups recently. That's not on the exam yet per se, but that allows you to sort of take your various subscriptions and group them together and group up policy, because what tends to happen in large organizations is as you build lots and lots of subscriptions and resource groups and you want to assign policy and make sure everybody gets the right rights in their various groups and subscriptions, it can get really, really confusing. So they have brought out management groups, which allows you to kind of group up subscriptions and assign the same permissions and policies to them as well. But for the most part, we'll definitely give you this document as one of the attachments in the course. So if you're just unsure where to go, these are the main links and should clear that up for you. If we go a little bit further and look at the account to subscription relationships, when we have our Azure Enterprise enrollment, we have one-to-many relationship with departments. So I can have many departments inside of my Azure EA, and I don't have to have any departments in there. It's just a way of organizing depending on the way your organization is set up. Within departments, then I can have one-to-many accounts, or I could just have one-to-many accounts to the enterprise enrollment to begin with if I didn't have departments. Following accounts, that's when I create my subscriptions themselves. And it always makes sense to have a plan for your subscriptions. So what you want to do is know when you're going to add a new subscription, or you add in it because you have to completely separate out roles from a role-based access point of view, or you add in subscriptions because perhaps you hit limits. Those are some of the reasons that you would add a new subscription. If we look at the enterprise hierarchy example in a little bit more detail, here's what it might look like. We have our enterprise enrollment, we have department A, B, and C. Maybe this is finance, HR, maybe IT is a general department as well inside of our EA. And then I can have sub-accounts. Maybe I have them for dev, for test, and then within there, I have various subscriptions that I want to manage and put resources in. If you want to see some common scenarios, it helps to look at the major three that Microsoft showcases. One is a functional example where you've got your enterprise at the top. We've got things like finance and IT as our functional departments there. And then we have account owners, and subscriptions in there you can see are based on projects within those specific departments. So production websites, project one test, project one dev. If we look at something a little bit more business division orientated, so again, I've got departments, but I've got like auto and aerospace now, as opposed to like very distinct finance and IT. So we've got business divisions within the enterprise that then perhaps my subscriptions below are based more on the applications themselves. And then another one that does come up a lot is actually geographic. We deal with a lot of global companies, and when we work with them, they have departments in North America, in Europe, in Asia, and then they'll typically separate out that way, then create accounts within there, and then the sub-projects as the subscriptions within those accounts. If we break down the EA type of accounts for a moment and we look along the top, we have enterprise admin, department admin, account owner, and potentially a service admin as well. And if we look at the enterprise admin, they have the ability to add other admins, other enterprise admins, department admins, and account owners. They can add and edit departments, and they can add or associate accounts to the enrollment themselves. Can they add subscriptions? Well, no, but they could add themselves as an account owner, and that account owner could then create subscriptions. So if we just quickly move over to the account owner column, you can see there that they can add service admins. They can't add departments, so they're not part of that. They don't have the ability to organize the EA, but they can add subscriptions as you get further down. So again, the account owner can't add more accounts inside the enterprise agreement, but they can add subscriptions. The enterprise admin can create accounts, and they could technically make themselves an account owner, and then they could create subscriptions, but by default you sort of have this delineation between enterprise admin and account admin as well. Now in between that, we again have that department admin. So if I'm using that model where I have departments, the enterprise admin could create some departments, and people in those departments could then create accounts, but only in their specific department. And so that's really, really key there. How much access do you want to give out? How much ability to create services do you want to give out to the departments? A lot of it is determined if you trust that department, if you think they have the ability to execute successfully in Azure, and hopefully they're taking training as well. But that's why they have these roles in place. All of them on the bottom, you can see, typically have the ability to view their usage and charges and view and remaining balances. Only the EA can really do that, because that's typically based off like an enterprise commitment that Microsoft sales team and the customer have made together.